All right, so today we're going to look at modeling this plunger box. So it's a pretty simple mechanism. There are two stops, being that it is in this box. There's a minimum point and a maximum point. We've got a spring in there. You take the top off and you kind of see there. And we have a shaft collar. So we can just take this guy, move it in and out, and you can see the shaft collar stops it from coming back up and connects this rod there. So if you enact a force and you push this way, it's going to compress the spring. When you release that force, the spring will push it back to its home position. So let's get going. Let's learn how to model this. So we're going to come over here. We're going to start out in the front plane. I'm going to start a sketch in the front plane. And we're going to call this the shaft sketch. So we're going to come over here. Oops, I already made my sketch. And we're going to start out with 1, 2, 3, 4 circles. And we're going to get to dimension those in a second. Let's focus on this first circle. I'm going to draw a line going across to mimic the D shaft. We're going to grab our dimension tool. We're going to dimension this circle. We're going to make this 6 millimeters. We're going to come here and we're going to dimension this line. We're going to make this 1 millimeter. And that's going to give us our D shaft profile. So the next circle that I have here is going to be our clearance holes. So I'm going to dimension this to be 6.25 millimeters. And you'll see that all these are converting into inches, since this is going to have multiple measuring types. We're going to be using imperial and metric. This is going to be 0.5 inches. And this, we're not going to dimension this just first. We're going to bring this in here, and we're going to have it so that it is bigger than the shaft, but smaller than the shaft collar. And then we'll just dimension that wherever it is. So you can set yours to, we'll do 0.35. All right. So we are set. So we're going to turn all these circles into all the shafts, shaft collars, and springs that we're going to need. So we can come over here, we can finish that sketch. We're going to come here, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make that shaft. So I'm going to come here and make that 6 inches. We can hit check. Got to make sure to go turn your sketches back on. Now we're going to make the shaft collar. So I'm going to go and actually I'm going to edit this. I'm going to add one more dimension here, and this is going to be used way later, but it's going to come in handy now that we know what we're doing. We're going to make this is going to be clearance for the shaft collar when that goes in and out. So we're going to make this 0.55 and call that good. Getting ahead of the game there. So we're going to come back to this. We're going to rename this extrude. We're going to call this our D shaft extrude. That way, if you ever need to come back and change that measurement, you know where it is. We're going to come over here in part 1 and rename that. Rename that D shaft 6 millimeter. All right. Now we're rocking and rolling. We're going to go over here and we're going to extrude this middle ring. Make sure not to select this, because remember, that's our clearance. So we're going to do 0.25 inches or 1/4 inch. and we're gonna make sure it's on new, and we're gonna hit check. So that's gonna be our shaft collar. We're gonna come here and edit that part. We're gonna rename it shaft collar. We're gonna come back here and rename that as well. Collar. All right, next we're gonna make the tube for the spring. And actually, I just realized here, I selected the wrong thing. Actually, yeah, there we go. No biggie, we're ready to go now. So what happened was I clicked the inner ring, which that's supposed to be our spring cylinder. So just make sure to do that outer ring as well. So we're gonna come here now and we're going to grab this outer ring. We're gonna do new. I'm gonna do a 2N position. I'm gonna bring this down here. I'm also gonna bring this over here. So this is the cylinder we're going to use to make our spring. So I want to put this, we're just eyeballing it, probably about there. And I want my spring to be about there. It's going to give me, we'll come over here, I'll make this 5.5. And we'll come over here, I'll make this 2.5. So we have a 3-inch spring. And we're going to make sure it's on new. We can hit OK. So now here's where we're going to actually make the spring. We're going to come over to Helix. If you can't find Helix, you can always come over to Search Tools and type in Helix. And it says to select a conical or cylindrical face. So we're going to select this tube that we just made, and I'm going to turn this tube off. You can see that we have a helix going around there. So we don't want 4, we want something more like 20, and that's going to resemble something that looks like a spring to us. And we're going to go here, we're going to go check. So the next step is we need to use that new technique that we learned, how to sweep. We're going to come down here on the bottom, and we're going to look kind of in this area. You can see the end point is right there, so we just need to create a sketch there. So we're going to go sketch. We're going to sketch on the top plane. And we're going to create a circle right at that point. It should just drop right on. And we can dimension this now. We can probably go, we'll go like 0.1. And that looks good. We can finish that sketch. I actually want to go and edit that. I want to rename that as our spring sweep sketch. And now, let's see. We're going to come over here. We're going to rename part 3. This is going to be our helix cylinder. And I'm going to put this in parentheses as hide, because once we make this part, we're going to hide this cylinder. We don't want to see it. It's only for modeling purposes. So we're going to come over here and sweep. It says select the face of the sketch. And then we're going to select the helix as the sweep. And now we should get a spring. All right, so we're going to come over here and we're going to call this spring sweep. And go check that. All right, so we got ourselves a nice spring here. Now the next step is we just need to add a hole for our shaft collar. So I'm going to look here on the top view. And I'm going to go and we're going to sketch in the top view. And I'm just going to put a circle. We're going to go off the origin. Go here, and I'm going to dimension this to be 3 millimeters. And I can hit check. So I'm going to hide my D shaft, and you can see that that's where that circle is. We can go to extrude, and I'm going to hide that sketch right there so it doesn't get confused. We can go to remove. We're going to go the other way, and we can just hit check. That's where the set screw is going to go, so it can sit on the flat face of the D shaft. So now we can turn that back on. Got this all modeled up. I'm going to change the name of part 4. This is going to be our spring. And we can come and hide our curve. All right, so now we're looking pretty good. We're going to come over here to transform. Once again, if you can't find transform, it's always easy just to go over and search the tools. We're going to click on our shaft collar. And we're going to move this. We're going to go over by translate by XYZ. We're just going to drag it to the end there. All right, we hit check. Looks good to me. We've got the internal features. Now we need to make the plunger box, the box that holds this mechanism. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go from the left side, and I'm going to come here and I'm going to start a new sketch. I'm going to call this sketch the plunger box side sketch. All right. And we'll come here, edit the sketch. I want to use, for the sketch plane, we're going to use the right plane. I want to use the corner rectangle, and we're going to go like this. We're just going to kind of trap that in there and get it roughly where we want. We want the inside of this box to be there. And now I'm going to come with a line from my origin to the midpoint. If I can find the midpoint here. There we go. Oh, no, that's the horizontal. There we go. And all I have to do is make this line horizontal, and that's going to align my rectangle with the center of everything else here. So now I can turn that back on. And now I can start dimensioning this. So first off, we're going to dimension this right here so that that stays where it wants to. We're going to come here and dimension that. And we're going to set this to be 1 inch. All right. Now we're going to run a line down the middle. And that is going to serve as a split. We're going to extrude both of these top and bottom parts. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a center rectangle. And I'm going to go to the midpoint of this line. Come up here. And we're just going to dimension this to be 0.25 away. And before I forget, we need to have a line that comes from here out to here. And that's going to do it for this part of the sketch. Now I can go over and check. And I'm going to turn off these parts for now, just so they don't get in the way. And we're going to extrude the top here. Now, instead of doing a blind, so you can see if we do a blind, it's pulling away from there, but we want it to be symmetric so that everything is on center with what we've already built. We're going to go new, solid. We can check that. We're going to go and turn this back on. And we're going to extrude the bottom part now. Now, it's important to know that we're going to do new, and we're going to go back to symmetric. We don't want to join these parts together. So now we can go check. Now we have two separate parts. We can come and rename these. This is going to be Plunger Box Top. And this is going to be Plunger Box Bottom. And this part, rename as well. All right. So now that we have that, we can start doing some more extrudes to this part. So I'm going to come here, and that original sketch we made, now all this stuff is going to come in handy because we can reuse it and we don't have to make another sketch. So I'm going to select this, this, and that little clearance ring. And I'm going to do remove. And I'm going to do remove up to face. This way, this model still stays parametric. So if we change the size of this, it's going to change with it. So this is going to allow that axle to go through here. And now we need to create the D shaft clearance. So I'm going to come over here. We're going to rename that extrude. We're going to call it the 6.25 millimeter clearance. And I'm just going to take the top off. It's easier to see. We're going to come over here and we're going to extrude, and we're going to grab this guy, and we're going to grab this guy and this guy, all of these. And we're going to do a two blind extrude. So we're going to do second end position. And we're going to bring this through here. Move this over. Bring this over. And now we can do remove. So you can see that there's a little channel there now. And if we turn on our shaft collar and we turn on our spring, we can see the start and end points that we need for this. So our shaft collar is right there. So we can go like this. And we can take this, so we can go like this. All right. So now that that's modeled in there, we can hit, well, actually, we got to do one more thing. For the merge scope, we want to come over and we want to click on the top. This way we don't have to do the extrude again. It's going to remove that from both of those entities. So now I can hit check. And when I remove the bottom, you can see that the top is slotted out, and vice versa when I look at this. So now when I turn on that, you can see that we have this all modeled up. So there's only two more steps to this. We need to add the holes in the top, and we need to create the dome. So we're going to come and do just a sketch on top. We're going to, I'm going to rotate this like so. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a center rectangle, and we're going to go out like that. And I'm going to do M3 holes. So we're going to do one there, do one there, there, and there. Escape the circle. We're going to dimension 1 and use equal constraints for the rest. We're going to do 3.1 millimeters just to add a little bit of clearance. And we'll come down here and do equal. And we'll equal this one to this one. And we'll equal this one to this one. All right, now we just have to go and make these lines construction. And we can confirm that. So we're going to go and rename this sketch. We're going to do this as Plunger Box holes. And we can just come here and extrude, extrude, and remove. Oh, it looks like I grabbed something I didn't want to. Let's deselect that. All right, so it looks like I'm missing this hole right here. There we go. Now I'm going to come over here and instead of blind, I'm going to go up to face. I'm going to select that. And for the merge scope, I'm going to go top and bottom. So now we should have holes all the way through. Now I can bolt this thing together and we can go check. All right, so now that that is modeled, the last thing we need to do is do the dome. So I'm gonna bring it up so that that's facing up. And we're gonna rotate this. All right, so now what we're gonna do is I'm going to sketch, I'm just gonna select the top of this flat here. I'm gonna show you a trick because I made a mistake right here, but there's a way to fix it later. So we're modeling on the top here. I'm going from the origin down. And I'm going to do a new line. I'm going to catch the trace of that and go across there. All right, so now we're going to come over here and we're going to do our midpoint constraint here to here. And we're going to dimension this to be 0.5. And now I'm going to take an arc. We're going to do a center point arc, and we're going to do from the center to here out to there, like so. And we're going to move this up just a little bit so we can dimension this line, and that's going to set the depth of this dome. So let's go 0.125. It's going to give us a little bit more material here. And now the last thing that we need to do is we need to go from the origin out to here and down to here. And I'm just going to dimension this to be 3.12. I need to turn the shaft sketch off. There we go. So this is going to be 3.125 millimeters. That's going to give us a little bit of wiggle room so that when we can press this on there after we 3D print it, You can see everything is fully defined now. And we can finish this up. We're going to revolve this geometry. And actually, we need to edit this sketch just a little bit. We need to make sure that this line goes all the way through like that. There we go. And now we can revolve it. Revolve axis is going to be this guy right there. Now we have that plunger dome, but you'll notice it's not aligned correctly. So how do we fix that? Do we translate it? Well, there's actually an easier way. What we can do is we built that sketch on the wrong plane. So what you can do is you can redefine the plane. So instead of making it this, we can make it the top plane. So we'll go top, and we're gonna go check. And now you'll see that it updates, and since the sketch moved down, that means our extrude, our revolve moved down. And now we're good to go. So I just want to apply some fillets along this box. You don't have to, but I think it looks better to do that. So I'm just going to come over here with my fillet tool, and I'm going to go around and select all the edges that I see. Now, I don't want it to be 0.2. I probably want it to be 0.05. That looks a little bit better, not so big. We just want to break that edge. Now, I don't want to put a fillet where we have a mating surface here. I just want it on the exterior, so when everything's built and you hold it in your hand, it doesn't cut you with a sharp edge. All right, that looks good. I can hit check there, and our part's done.